Alright, so in this video we're checking out another Protek25 from iFlight. So this one's a little bit different. I think they've changed some of the specs since the last time I showed you the Protek25 Pusher from a while back. This is from an old video here, not minus the Hawkeye camera. This one is a DJI version with the Vista, and these have 1404 5500 kV motors. I'm not sure if they changed the specs on the motors or not for the whole line or not. This is I think one of the first batches. I think each time they make a new batch, they kind of tweak the specs a little bit to sort of improve the characteristics. So these have 1404 4600 kV motors, so a lower kV motor. And it's probably because the overall setup here is lighter than what you would expect on the Pusher with the DJI system and like a naked GoPro. So again, this is like a Cinewhip style, 25mm Pusher. This one is analog, not digital. It came with an Express LRS receiver here in the back, their iFlight branded one. The frame is pretty much the same except for the color of the prop guards is different. And the motors, of course, the lower kV 1404 motors. The same whoop style flight controller, all-in-one flight controller in there. And the main difference here is the built-in Runcam 4K camera, and then they have an analog. I think this is like a iFlight rebranded Caddx Ant camera here at the bottom, analog of course. And this is basically this camera here, this Runcam 4K camera is basically the GoCam that I reviewed a while back. I don't have it anymore, and they basically decased it. And they put the camera sensor module here in this 3D printed part in the front above the analog FPV camera. And then there's a ribbon cable that goes back to a camera board that is sitting between the video transmitter and the all-in-one flight controller. And it is really hard to see on camera here. Yeah, it's basically buried right. I'm going to try and put my tool right here, is right there by the prop guard, and that is where the SD card slot is, right there. So you can imagine getting the SD card in and out of here is very tricky. You have to kind of get your finger up in here and then kind of poke it in and out. And sometimes I have to use some needle nose pliers to get the card out, so it's not the best spot for the SD card board. And the video quality is, is pretty much the same as the GoCam. If you don't know what the GoCam is, it's kind of like a, how would you say it, sort of a stripped down version of the Runcam 5 Orange. It does have the built-in gyro, and it does save the gyro data to a CSV file. So it does have Gyroflow compatibility. But as you'll see here from the video footage, the footage from the camera looks actually better without being run through Gyroflow than after you run it through Gyroflow, and I don't know really sure why that is. It does seem to have, the data seems to be there. I'm not sure what's wrong with the data. It seems to be okay in terms of what it produces in terms of the data file, but it does not produce very good stabilized video. It's actually worse than not running it through Gyroflow at all, which actually the tune on this is pretty good for a little 2.5-inch whoop. And if you just take the HD footage, it's all right. It's probably better to just run it through some sort of like post-process stabilization. Using something like Warp Stabilizer or something like that would probably do a better job than Gyroflow. Doesn't seem to be working all that great on this setup here. I did get a firmware update that didn't seem to help that much, maybe a little bit. The original firmware here didn't work at all. So yeah, I'm not really sure what's up with this model. I know that it's discounted right now, like I think 30% or 33%. So this whole model you can get here for, with the camera and everything, it's like a little over $200, which is not a bad deal. I mean, I'm actually just going to take this setup here and take the camera out and put something else, maybe like a naked GoPro setup, so I have an analog version of the Protek25. But I think that if you just want to get the Pusher, you basically just get the camera for free, I think, is what you're looking at if you're looking at the analog version. I don't know if they're going to be getting more firmware updates for the camera. yeah, I'm not really sure what the situation is on that. So if you were wondering about that, can't really answer. But yeah, the results here are basically it's the bit rate of the video is kind of low. It's pretty much the same as the GoCam. So if you go back to my GoCam video, I sort of outline all of the disadvantages. It's like 1440p video. It's just not a very high bit rate. So what I would do is not even bother with Gyroflow and just put it into the 4K mode, and that gives you the highest bit rate. And of course, it uses the same setup as the Runcam 5 Orange and the GoCam. You have to get the Runcam app and then use the QR code to change the video settings. So go back to those videos if you want to see how to actually set up the camera. It's the same way. It's no different. But in terms of the way it flies pretty decently. And as you see in some of the footage, I'll show you some of the footage that does not include Gyroflow. Here's what the quad weighs. No battery. 149 grams, and then with S4S520, the way it flew it, it's about 204.5 grams. So I think this overall setup here, at least on this model, is pretty much well under the 250 gram mark, which I think is maybe why they reduced the kV of the motor, because you don't really need a super high kV motor at this weight. Again, I didn't check the current specs of what the model is on the other editions of the Protek25 Pusher. You can go check out the links and on their website and see if there's any differences, but I think that's why this is basically a lighter setup, and why they went with a lower kV motor, which is fine. Which I think you get some pretty decent flight times on this one. For Force 520, I was probably getting like 5 minutes of flight time, cruising around, flying, like a Cinewhoop. So I'm not exactly sure who this is going to be good for. Probably someone that just wants to get like okay 4K footage from this camera and not a lot of work. You don't have to install anything. It just comes out of the box ready to go. You do have to deal with the fact that it is kind of a pain to get the SD card in and out. But if you're okay with that, the footage is all right if you don't use Gyroflow. But I'm hoping that at some point they'll come up with a firmware update that fixes the Gyroflow gyro data so it's actually usable, and you can get even more smoother footage out of this setup here. But as of right now, as of the time of making this video, in my opinion, the Gyroflow results aren't that great. Anyway, here's the footage. You can judge for it yourself. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.